On YouTube fam, it's I Freshly Snipes 21 here with you today to give you my top 5 wrestling games of all time. This was a very hard list to do, and this was also a list that could have easily included the Aki wrestling games on the Nintendo 64. But in order to avoid doing that and give a little bit of variety, I'm going to go ahead and mix it up, starting with number 5, which was the wrestling game that for me started it all and got me into wrestling games, was WrestleMania the arcade game. It was in the arcade, Sega 32X, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, PS1. I think it was even on Sega Saturn at the time, but it featured only 8 characters. It was Doink, Razor Ramon, Undertaker, Lex Luger, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Yokozuna, and I believe Bam Bam Bigelow. It had that old school raw music playing in the background of all your fights. It was pretty much best 2 out of 3 falls. I think every match for the most part. I think my favorite was probably Razor Ramon's. I just love just chopping, just the animation that showed up when you just chopped him. It was like kind of like a super chop. Undertaker was creepy as always. Shawn Michaels with that damn super kick. Bam Bam Bigelow was great. He had the little flaming punch. I think the person I hated fighting the most was Yokozuna because he'll throw that, Mr. Fuji powder in your eye, and then he'll either slam you or just like start hitting you with a combo. And then the most disrespectful thing, after he beats you, he literally sits on you and taunts. So number 5 is WrestleMania the arcade game. Even now to this day, I got the emulator on my laptop that I play every now and then. It's still fun to play. It kind of takes you back to that old arcade style wrestling game that they tried to recreate with WWE All Stars that came out a few years ago. But to me, WrestleMania arcade game will always be the OG, the best one. Number 4 is a wrestling game that I don't think a lot of people played because it was on the Nintendo GameCube, but the WWE Day of Reckoning 2. To me, I feel like the GameCube wrestling games are very underrated, only because the system that it was on. I think if it was on PS2 or the OG Xbox at the time, it probably would have got a little bit more shine. But Day of Reckoning 2, I had some of the best times playing these games. I had 4 controllers, so me and 3 of my buddies will be playing all night, just hitting each other with chairs and things like that. And I think the thing that I liked the most about the Day of Reckoning games was that you can break up every single move. I think that's the thing that they kind of got away from, as the years went on, as far as wrestling games go, to where you can't really break up any move. Like, if somebody going for a suplex, you can knock them down. The story mode was cool, and I think the thing that I liked the most was the fact they kind of brought back that old school meter as far as like the damage indicator, where when it's turning red, blue, yellow, and things like that. But all in all, WWE Day of Reckoning 2 was fantastic, especially considering it was on the GameCube. Like I said, it didn't really get a lot of respect, and I don't think a lot of people played it, but WWE Day of Reckoning 2 is my number 4 wrestling game. Number 3 was a game that came out recently, which is WWE 2K16 for the PS4 and the Xbox One. I think the reason why I have this game on my list is the fact that they're starting to find their stride now as far as next gen wrestling games go, which is great. The level of customization was fantastic. Always the community creations where you can download people and things like that is always great to see. The story mode was okay. They added the My Career this year, from the 2 like basketball and things like that. It was okay. It got a little repetitive after a while, but this was their first crack at it. So for your first time, pretty good. I can't wait to see what y'all do on the next one. But as far as like, there was still some instances where the hit detection was a little off, but they'll get that cleaned up with time. But WWE 2K16 is definitely a great game to play. I still play it to this day when I have a chance to. So number 3 is WWE 2K16. Now, I'm down to the top 2, and this is where it kind of got a little difficult for me. But number 2 is SmackDown Here Comes the Pain for the PS2. And everybody that knows me know this is by far one of my favorite wrestling games of all time. Obviously, it had Brock Lesnar on the front due to the slogan of the game. But going back to like what I said about WWE 2K16, the level of customization for this game was great between the moves, the entrances and things like that. And the story mode is the thing that I thought was the best, even to this day, one of the best storylines that you can play on a wrestling game. Because yes, it had its moments where it was real linear, but the fact that you can walk around backstage and talk to people and interact with people, you can even end up accidentally causing a random backstage match. You can say the wrong thing to a certain superstar and they'll either punch you, or if you handle it like a villain or a heel, as they like to say, you'll end up attacking them. And the level of depth with the characters and things like that was great. I like the impact that the moves had. I know it's something small, but I think that's one of the things that's been lacking in the recent wrestling games was the impact of moves. Like, they actually sounded like they hurt and they looked painful. And considering back in the PS2 days, I think that was great to see. So number 2 would be SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. Now, number 1 shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you who's watching this video right now would most definitely agree. Going to the N64, one of those Aki games that I was mentioning earlier, WWF No Mercy. Okay, what can be said about this game that hasn't been said already? Now, I could have went to either WrestleMania 2000, any of the WCW games that they put out, but No Mercy was the one that really just made me be like, you know what, that is and forever will be the greatest wrestling game to me of all time. Going back to the story lasted for a long time. I think you could play for about a couple of years if I'm not mistaken. The depth of characters. Now, I will say it took a long time to create a character on this game, but that's only because they literally gave you every option to pick. It was mostly the move set. The move set, you can pick your counters for each situation. You can either have special counters and things like that. It was great. WWF No Mercy to me is still one of the best games that I spent countless hours on. I don't even remember how many sleepless nights that I had staying up all day playing WWF No Mercy. And for some reason, Test was difficult to beat. I don't know why. That was back when we had the long hair. But yeah, number 1 is WWF No Mercy for the N64. Like I said, those are my top 5 wrestling games of all time. Let me know in the comments, what are some of your favorite wrestling games? Like, obviously, I left off a lot. We had some of the, even if you was a fan like the Fire Pro Wrestling games and things like that, let me know. Like I said, leave in the comments. You can either give me a top 5 list, or you can just, just name some off. I'm Freshly Snipes 21. Thank y'all for watching this video, and I'm out. Peace.